You know, what's interesting to me is in these discussions, everybody has come to promo cares at a different stage of what was going on.
Yeah.
So by talking to all of you and kind of weaving the story together, it's interesting to like piece together everybody's viewpoint on what it was like when they got here.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you've been here longer than most.
Yeah.
So you have maybe a slightly different and slightly unique perspective because of just the sheer length of time
Yeah.
that you've been doing this with us, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was super excited for you and I to have this conversation. Plus, you're blunt as hell, so you're just going to tell it the way it is. And you know, it's sort of like we talk about the roles that we all play on the board.
Uh-huh.
Like, you've gravitated to a place where you do something for us that's very sort of core to your personality. Like, you're not going to let us get off topic if there's not a need for it, and it's
Right.
incredibly valuable to have you in there. As Denise said, having some sheep herders in the
Yeah.
front is
Yeah. I heard that. I was like, I know who she's talking about.
all right. So knowing that, like, paint the picture for us about what you encountered when you were trying to decide if you wanted to be a part of this thing. Like,
Okay.
what are your memories of that?
So I volunteered with you for years, and back 2005, I was president of RAC, and that's where I think we met, basically.
Yeah.
And then all the affiliation of all the regionals and all the things. So I feel like grassroots wise, like I love the industry and I love the people and I love the connections there. And then you had been doing a podcast for Promo Cares, and this was even before COVID. And I wanted to learn more about it. So I know in this industry, I can reach out to any of my friends and be like, hey, I want to try this. And they're like, okay, here. And you literally like gave it to me and just said, go. So I was like, I don't even know what kind of microphone to buy. And Bill Petrie was letting it go. And so he helped me. And so I got to kind of like see if that's something that was something that I enjoyed. I think that through that podcast part, it became very saturated, especially through COVID, where the same talking heads were out there and the same information was being spread. And so we kind of evolved that whole podcast to do a partnership with Promo Kitchen. And so we have 4 or 5 of those a year where we kind of throw it that way because we don't need 10 of the same podcasts with the same guests talking about the same subjects. So it's kind of evolved from where when I started, it was literally to get experience in podcasting. And then, you know, as it does oftentimes in this industry, you meet like the coolest people. And, you know, if you want to be around these people that are going to make you be better, then this is where you want to be.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Scott Pearson's episode is premiering today, and we were talking about, you know, this whole notion of the average of the 5 people that you hang around with. Like,
yeah,
holy moly, man! I don't like how do we do better than this group? You know,
yeah, pretty phenomenal. And you've got like the workers, like the people that are like, I am going to take this and run, and you don't have to think about it. And then you've got marketing minds, and then you've got people that are like me, who like, I run the meeting. That's what I'm doing right now. There's not a lot that I'm giving other than that. And that's okay because there's other things that I'm doing outside of it. But it's been fun to see it all evolve and all the people that have kind of jumped on board. And it's a working board. I mean, everybody's got to be doing something. No one is sitting.
we definitely witnessed that with Water for Good. You know, people have got some life things that are getting in the way of their contributions, and it's just nice to know that you got somebody that's got your back when you know life gets in the way, because COVID taught us anything. It's that life has a way of getting in the way, right? So, and especially, I mean, you know, none of us are getting paid for what we do here, so you know, doing it as a labor of love really brings an extra dimension to the way that we want to try to handle it. But so I asked Danny this question in his interview. We haven't released it yet, but he has his perspective. You having been around as long as you have, like, I don't know how to ask it any other way than to say, Karie, from your perspective, does promo care still matter? Do we have a place? Do we need to keep doing the work that we're doing? And if we don't, why? And if we do, why? Like, what do you think?
So, you never know how it's going to evolve.
Right.
And I know at the time that you and Danny said, we're going to start this thing, it was very much needed. And I think in the back of the minds of most professionals in the industry, they see the need to not be part of the problem. And
Right.
you hear brand fill and all those kind of things. So to me, Promo Cares got the conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
I think that everybody thought about it. And then I was talking to someone the other day that I had some questions about something, and she was a distributor out of like North Carolina, I think. And she's like, well, I was doing this 20 years ago. Like, this is not new to us. This is just part of our DNA. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of people like that. But I think that Promo Cares kind of like put a framework around it, and then allowed a space for like the voices that maybe you wouldn't hear normally through PPI or ASI come to the forefront, and they're forces. They're so freaking cool to hear. So now it's interesting because like the PPI shows, like every other educational session was about sustainability or whatever it was. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, you're pushing a rock up a hill and you're trying to make this movement, and the movement is happening. Like, it is happening. And so it's been funny to see how Promo Cares has evolved there, because we do a lot of give back campaigns. So one of our 4 pillars is that option. And I think all of us have our own little like internal space that we work in. And, you've got an event, everyone's got an event that they do. To see it evolve where it's like the more important discussions that are about sustainability and workforce equality and everything is becoming more of a forefront than a give back campaign. But ironically, Promo Cares has become this place where every year they're producing this crazy event on top of all the events we're doing. And it's been interesting. So whether we're still important, I think Promo Cares is, because of the voices that sit on the board. Where it's going to go, I have no idea, but I don't think it should go away. I think the reason all these things are happening, I think, is because of the groundswell of all of us and the grassroots, which is why I also love regionals.
And where I keep coming out on this is, it doesn't matter whether or not we need to take credit for it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's important.
The simple fact that it's happening,
right,
is what matters. And
right.
whether we were a catalyst, whether we were the jumpstart, whether we were just a bunch of noisy people that were, filling social media feeds.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is it is not as hard to find as it was when I started doing it.
Right.
Like, it just isn't.
Right.
And for us, like, to your point, I think we're doing a good job of not letting go of the past, capitalizing on what we've learned, and pushing the conversation even further forward in places that, because of our position, we've afforded ourselves the opportunity to examine the periphery, right? And see where are there other ways that we could have an impact in a way that could maybe get copied by some other folks.
Right.
I mean, and
it's
that's
all about the spotlight on all of it, whether it's the back campaigns or it's about sustainability or where that ink on that t-shirt is going, or, the water that's wasted from it. It's like, we are all part of this ecosystem. It's not just one person or one distributor. It's everyone should be a part of it. Every supplier should be thinking about it. And it was surprising to me how many suppliers, when we first started doing podcasts, we did a lot of spotlights on what they're doing in their give back campaigns. And it was already being done. It just wasn't touted. And it was like, ew, I don't want to tout it because it feels icky, because I'm not doing it for that. But it is important for everyone to know, because it's raising all the boats. And then it's also being a great example and role model for everyone else. So
yeah.
The answer is yes, we are still important. And I think it is still important for us to be around for now.
Hey, good. No disbanding in the future coming up. All right. So it's funny that you bring this fundraising thing up, because we're in the middle of a fundraiser right now, and we'll talk about that when the topic comes up. But to your point, like, I had no idea. You had no idea. None of us had any idea that we were going to become this prolific fundraising engine that we've become when we got started. And, you and I and the rest of the group sit in these board calls and wring our hands a bit about, like, we don't want to be seen as just that. Right. But when you're really good at it, you don't want to, like, oh yeah, well, we could do that, but we're choosing not to because we want to be seen as this other thing. Like that doesn't make any sense either. So, um, so do you think it's a matter of engagement? Is it because we are all prolific fundraisers individually that's why we fundraise? Or is it that we need to get some more voices in here on some of the other topics that are pillars of what we want to stand for? Like, where do you come out on that discussion?
So I feel that we have to be careful because I think it's like I was doing a fundraiser here locally for a client. There's Mandy and David who are working on something there. There's Danny working on there. That everyone's working on things. So we're all asking our own communities about it.
Right.
And then you've got promo cares on top of that. So like my Facebook feeds, I like cringe because I'm like, I'm always asking for things. And
Right.
that's not the intent of Facebook. I should be sharing my life and like what's going on. And that's way more important to me.
Right.
So I do think that promo cares, like the For Good campaigns, are super cool, but I do see that the importance of all those three other pillars that we need to be careful of, and we need to make sure that we're focused on, and that comes through in the podcast and the education, and then obviously like that just osmosis where everybody started, jumping on board. But I would personally like to see a little bit more on the other side because we can do a campaign. When I say we, I say Mandy and Meg can do a campaign.
Right.
I don't have the bandwidth to do all that they do. They're incredible. But it's something that I feel like, and especially as a distributor, because most of my, like on social media, at least, a lot of the followers are not in the industry. And so it's like, then I'm putting out promo care. So like a supplier like Meg, she's got all the distributors, which are her customers. So that makes sense. So it's been an interesting, like for me personally, like trying to figure out the dynamic and how I can contribute. Because putting out there, I don't think I mean, I know a lot of people in the industry, but I don't think that the social media is the best. I think Meg's does better than mine, kind of thing.
Well, and so that's what makes Water for Good so interesting. So for us as distributors, this is really the first time that we've created a campaign that we can go out and sell product and get our clients involved in the fundraiser, which to me is like, this is such an amazing move forward for us as an organization, because we collectively as distributors, oftentimes in the education sessions that we are most often giving, not attending, we're saying like, figure out a way to engage your clients in a nonprofit engagement, and that will make you more sticky. Well, here it is.
Yep.
And so I'm with you. Like, we've got to be really careful about how we manage what we do. But if we can turn this corner and get to a place where we've gone from just being the cheerleader, being the teacher, it's what the industry needs. And like, I love the fact that we've created something that you can either just flat rip off and do what you want with it, or you can take it and make it your own, right? Like, it's a record, but you can remix it, or you can just do karaoke, like whatever you want to do, you can do. But we're giving you a chance now to like jump in and get involved. And I'm hoping, Karie, as I ask you that same question and I'm listening to your response, what I'm hoping happens is, whether it's because of these interviews or just the fact that we're trying to make it known that we have other pillars, that we want people who are passionate about those pillars to come be a part of what we do.
Right.
So that we don't have to like stretch ourselves to a place where we're not going to be as good as somebody who already has experience and expertise in a place. I mean, that's why Scott Pearson was such an amazing add to the board, because here we sit with Water for Good. And I don't think that we're capable of doing this campaign had Scott not already had a relationship with the people at Planet Water, had Danny not had a relationship with the people at NAMI, if Jonathan Isaacson didn't have the relationship with Save the Children. Like, we're taking advantage of where we sit in our spaces in this industry. And it's almost like we're becoming a little bit more of a broker now about opportunity. But what we're saying to all of you is, if you're taking the time to listen to Karie and I talk, and there's something that we're not doing that you want to be a part of, raise your hand, because we will not say no. And think about when Meg came to the board and what that meant, when Scott came to the board and what that meant. These people have come kind of with this stuff in their hip pocket, ready to go. And that's what's made us be so capable of acting as quickly as we've been able to act, right? And, I want to, like, nothing for nothing. I mean, on the one hand, we're talking about all of these other pillars, but we are really good fundraisers. So,
Mhm.
Karie, how did you end up in the Guinness Book of World Records? What did you do?
So, I work with a local homeless shelter here, and it's the largest shelter that does intake for homeless families. So you have to have like one minor with you, and I don't know why I have a heart for it. You see them on every corner here in Phoenix. It's horrible. I went to a breakfast this morning, and there's 16,000 people that are waiting. We're 16,000 short of having affordable housing, and I can't afford my own house. Like, that's how crazy the market is right now.
Right.
And so it's just these heartbreaking stories. So had a passion for homelessness. And so I was involved in an auxiliary. That's how I got involved to volunteer. That was kind of the channel. And they did a walk every year. And I remember Danny at one point, Danny Rosen saying, the world doesn't need another walk. And I was like, gosh, yeah, so true. But, we had a walk. It's at the Phoenix Zoo. There's a lot of great things around it because it's a world-class zoo and you get entry all day and it's cheaper and all the good things. But I was still like, it just got me thinking. So I was in Mexico with some girlfriends talking away. A lot of things get solved in Mexico for me. And we were drinking margaritas and someone was like, did you hear about that walk where they did the most people running in 1K in a flip-flops? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And so I asked her because she was like, well, maybe we'll do it for the school. And I was like, no, let me see if I can do it on a different scale. Cause we have like the NFL mascot, the NHL mascot, like it's a big community event. And so I talked to the president of the homeless shelter and I was like, what do you think about this? And she was like, yes. And I was like, oh, shoot. Like, I don't even know how to do this. And it was a big undertaking, but we did it. And that year, 18, we ended up increasing their giving 67%. And it was because we just did it a little spin on something that, whatever. And people are still asking for it. But the ironic part is that you talk about the connection. So then in North Carolina, there's a running group that had the title. And so we beat the title and then they were informed and they reached out to me and they were like, what? And so we started talking and they only raised like $2,000 or $3,000. And then the next year they went after us again and they couldn't get us because we were way too good. But they still hold the title because no one's come up against us. But they ended up increasing their giving from like 2,000 to 17,000. So like in that community, because they had this little, so that's, I could talk all day about that, but that's how we're in the Guinness World Book of Records and we're still there.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, and I've said this numerous times, so many of the 10 listeners that will watch this will say, I've heard him say this before.
Let's go for 16.
16 it is. The idea of giving out a cartoon-sized check to me is one of the major motivators to me. Like the idea of just like, giant check, here you go, like we did with NAMI. That was so much fun. Like, and even though we did it virtually, it was still was amazing that we were able.
Forgot about that.
To make a difference, Karie, and for us, like if I'm grateful for anything on top of all of the stuff that we've already talked about being grateful for is when you are around a group of people that can pull shit off, it gives you confidence.
Yeah.
100%. Like they did it. Why can't I do this? Right. And especially because the crowd is so giving, like you don't even have to go dream up something on your own. Like you just, hey, can I have that? Like, I want to do that. Like, and it's amazing to see this fellowship and, willingness to kind of like we say all the time, right? It's compassion over competition. And to watch it not just happen, but to flourish the way it has with this group has been, especially noteworthy to me. Right. So, all right. So we're in the middle of a fundraiser right now. We're trying to raise some money to do something amazing. What's your take on Water for Good? Where do you come out on this thing? So
Scott Pearson was the bringer to us. And so he can speak way more about it. What I like about this campaign is that there's multiple facets to get involved. And like you said earlier, the distributor portion has been missing in our fundraisers where it's like hard to like figure out how. So with the Zoom catalog and being able to have this, chunk of products that you can sell and that a portion goes back, we're trying to make it as easy as we can for the distributor. So I think I want to build on that moving forward if we continue the for good, which I think is going to happen. getting better about toolkits and that kind of stuff to make it easier, because it's been very supplier focused or industry focused. But if we can push it out even further to the customers and the clients, like that's pretty freaking cool. But another, I'm going to be blunt here. Another interesting part is when we were talking about different people being involved in involvement in fundraising. I'm not going to name the situation, but something that is interesting to watch in this group of people is when someone comes and they have stipulations on how they want to interact, and how this board has reacted to that. And it's exactly it is weaved so hard into me, where it's like, we're not going to have you give us money and then have all these stipulations about it. No strings attached is kind of how I feel. Yeah. And I think overall, when we're talking about fundraising or giving back or donating, it's like someone calls me about the homeless shelter and they're like, hey, I've got, 15 suits from 1980. Where can I donate them? I'm like, don't donate them here, because I don't think that anyone's going to get a job in a 1980s suit. Like, I think another place would be good for that. So I think it's also interesting because I'm learning too. And it's exciting to see that in this group of people, that they're not just taking anything and saying yes to it. There should be no strings attached. You should do it for the right reasons and not make it harder on that organization.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. And I don't know the best way to put it, but like, if it's always sunshine and puppy dogs, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Right.
So
if you're not getting something that sounds like what Karie's talking about, then maybe it means that your aspirations aren't quite as big as they should be. Because, for instance, the confidence that I just told you about. So I went to one of my clients and said, I'd like you to make the $100,000 contribution and go with me to build the water towers. And the guy didn't blink an eye at me. He was like, in another moment, I would have told you, yes, we can't do that right now, but thank you for thinking of us.
Right.
Holy cow. Yeah. Right. And
yeah.
I would have not previously had the strength of conviction to go ask somebody for $100,000.
Yeah.
But now,
all in the way you present it.
Right. I'm like, how would you like to take a contingent of your leadership team on a service project to Mexico to build a water tower? It was like, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And to know that we've created a situation that would allow one of our customers the opportunity to be able to do that. Like, that's a win, Karie Cowden.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That is
absolutely. Win. Yeah. There's so many great things, so many great lessons, so many, and always learning. It's so cool to be a part of it.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Final thoughts. Like, where do you think, if you were going to crystal ball this thing, what do you think the next big thing is that we try to tackle?
For good or in general?
Yeah.
I would like to see us do more in the other 3 pillars. And I don't know what that looks like, but it's like the for good, I think, is a machine now. Mm-hmm. Whether that machine and those 2 people doing that whole machine want to continue, it's insane amount of work.
Right.
But I think it's important for us to continue to go up that hill with the rock and education, and so that more people understand. It only lifts the industry and makes us more important.
Yeah. So if you think about what we're talking about, so we've got some climatologists on the team. We've got some give backers definitely on the team. Mm-hmm. We have a ethical and responsible sourcing person on the team. Mm-hmm. We've got that really well. So really what we're saying is diversity. We need some color. We need some white folks.
Right.
So I would say, for anyone who's listening to this, like, if you have something that is a burning topic to you, that you feel like we are a place for you to take that conversation, we would want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely.
And I always, like, anytime we get an email or anything, I'll get those emails. I would say I'm admin. That's what I'm bringing to the table at the moment, because I just don't have the capacity for all the things. But anytime someone emails and they're like, hey, I want to raise my hand, I'm like, okay, so we're a board of all volunteers. Right. We don't have a whole process set up yet. So just be patient. Everyone's been incredible, but just keep that in mind. It's not like we don't have a paid staff.
Well, I won't I won't lie, you've been one of my favorites since I started in this industry, and the fact that
Back at your Raj.
we had a way to figure out how to keep our friendship going to me is
Yeah,
something that I'll personally cherish for
same.
the rest of time. So I'm so grateful to have you still hanging around and doing the thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.